afternoon, everybody, and welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football, and it's a Monday. And here he is, former Wolverine Jim Scarcelli, who joins the program all fired up to talk about Michigan. Scar, what's going on?
Life is good, Danny. Danny, it's all good. We're going to take care of these Wildcats. This ain't your daddy's Wildcats, though. This ain't. When I was playing, the Wildcats were like playing a MAC team. These guys got players. It'll be a competitive game, but we're fired up for our Lions. We got a tough home game, senior day, but our guys will be ready to go.
Yeah, well, you hope so. Northwestern looked pretty good at the beginning against Ohio State. The game turned when they had a punt. The ball went over the guy's head and ended up being out of bounds at the 1 yard line, and then that was all over pretty much after that. But up to that point, Northwestern was right there, played a good game, and was hanging in there against Ohio State at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, this guy's a good coach. You know, he took over a terrible situation last year, and he found a way to win, and they hired him. You know, he inherited a tough deal, and they play good defense. They don't have the best players on the planet, but they play smart. They don't beat themselves. They will be a tough matchup for our offense. They're going to play the run well. Okay, they're going to stop. This guy's he wants to play physical football, and we're going to have to throw the ball a little bit against this team because he's going to load up to try to stop our run. They got a mobile, good quarterback. Early in the year, I thought, wow, this kid's bad. He's not very good, and then he's really improved. He is I talked about it last week. They went to Maryland and beat them good and threw it on them, ran it on them, stopped them. It'll be senior day, Denny, but the game has a lot of impact from that standpoint. A lot of guys going to play their last game at Michigan Stadium. Mason Graham, a lot of these guys are going to play their last game. And so that's an emotional day. It's an emotional game. I remember the seniors. I remember my last game, and it matters. But there's a lot of other little things going on, Denny, with these last two games for some of these guys. Okay, and it's interesting. December 9th is when you can get in that portal. Obviously, we want to win a 6 game to get in the bowl game, so that's one thing. Okay, but there's a lot of guys on that football team that are going to get in the portal, and some of them are playing, some of them are backups, and some of them might be starters that are going to they might test the waters. So I talk about reasons to play well, bowl game, but some guys may want to play well just to have good film so they can market themselves. I don't know if anybody's thinking about that, but there's all these different angles now why it's important to play well here.
Well, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are contacting Michigan or their agents or their representatives saying, what are you guys looking at next year? So, yeah, there are going to be a lot of the Michigan football players that aren't going pro that might think about going into the portal. They're talking with their representative, whoever it is, their high school coach, or if they have an agent, and that agent's picking up the phone, and whether it's NIL money or a chance to play or both, that's going on now. It's not just these guys are 100% concentrating on practice and school, and then December 9th, magically, they'll just be like, okay, I'm going to the portal. These plans are already, the wheels are already in motion.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin talked about it, how, pro football doesn't even have to deal with this. We're in season. You especially these guys that are in the playoffs, you're preparing for it. You might lose a backup guy who's like, I'm going in the portal and I'm going to be going to that school second semester. I won't be preparing for the championship run here as a backup. And so you have guys on Michigan's team that might be backups or maybe even starters that will maybe turn down the chance to play in the bowl game. And say, I'm going to be at my next school. And I'll be starting there second semester. And, Danny, you there's a lot of stuff going on, and you better be, this is where Oregon, Ohio State, and these guys are, they're ahead of the game, but our guy's going to do it right this year. I got faith, man. we're going to have a quarterback next year. And there's rumor out there. I've always talked about the Washington State kid. This kid he's a smaller J.J. McCarthy. He's about an inch or two shorter, but he's everything I want. He's a passer. He's accurate. He's tough, and he is elusive. He can run. I want a guy that can avoid the rush. He's a good player. I want him on our list. I want the kid from Arizona State, the former Michigan State kid. He's a stud. He's an athlete. He's got him winning. That guy's a good coach at Arizona State, but he's got the right quarterback. I talked about the kid at Texas State. I mean, I'm just throwing out a few names right there that, there's no way Washington State should be able to have the money that Michigan has, because we got to beat Ohio State. We got to compete against Oregon. Washington State's got to beat Colorado State and those people from a financial standpoint. So I like hearing that name. I like hearing that. You just brought that up. Neuber, I tell you, Miller Moss is kind of, in my opinion, look, he's a good player. He's an accurate passer. He's a big, tall kid. I just want the more elusive kid. If I'm coaching defense from whatever team, and you put Miller Moss over there, or that kid from Washington State, or the kid from Arizona State, I would rather defend Miller Moss than those other two guys, because he doesn't run like those two. I think all three of those guys are accurate passers. But how many times if we've seen it, how many times did JJ get us out of trouble, Denny? You know what I mean? With his feet. How many times did he convert third downs where the protection broke down? How many times did we have to call an RPO where he ran and got out of bounds and pick up a first down? Listen, he's a good player. Miller Moss is probably better than what we got now, but I think we can do better than him.
Well, being elusive or being able to be a dual threat is nice. It's nice, like you're talking about, to be able to tuck the ball away. But the most important thing for a quarterback is being able to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball down the field. So you can go ahead. I mean, if you want a guy that's elusive, then they just bring back Alex Orji.
I want both, Denny. I didn't say one. I want both. They're out there. They're out there, man.
Yeah, I don't know about the kid from North Texas, Chandler Morris.
Texas State. Check him out. Research that kid.
North Texas.
I watched him play twice this year.
I'm talking about the kid from North Texas who's leading.
Okay, maybe he's there's a lot of guys I haven't seen. I just seen the kid from Texas State.
Yeah, the kid from North Texas is leading the country in touchdowns, so that's why I looked at him. I just looked at the numbers. I didn't watch him play. But
no question, Denny. Listen, accuracy is the number one quality you want in your quarterback. If you can't deliver the football, I get that. Okay, but elusive is also high on my list. I want a guy that can move, man. As a former defensive player and defensive coach, I was just listening to Belichick, earlier today. I love his podcast, and he talked about defending the empty formation, and how everything changes based on the mobility of the quarterback if a team comes out empty. It's just little things. I just know it as a coach and player, man. So give me that guy that's accurate and can move, who's tough, smart, team guy. Give me J.J. McCarthy, man. And I think we got a little shorter version out there, Wazoo. Show up to Pullman with a bag of money, and let's go. And then bring in a stud freshman to go along with Jaden Davis.
Yeah, John Mateer is the kid from Wazoo. I would put there's a quarterback from BC, Castellanos. If you watched him play against Michigan State, he's going to be in there. Malik Murphy, Brendan Sorsby, Emmett Brown, Matthew Sluka. I don't know if Michigan fans, he was the kid at UNLV who quit on the team because they weren't giving him the NIL money, and that might be a red flag. It's a flag. I don't know how it's some kind of flag. I don't know if it's a total red flag or not, but
I think it's understandable. I think it's understandable. You don't honor your commitment,
I kind of understand it too. I mean, I get both sides of that. Somebody say, look, if somebody's going to quit on a team and all about money, but if an offensive coordinator really said, look, we're going to give you $100,000 to come here, and you went there and you're buying in and your team's 5-0, and you're like, hey, can I get the money? And they're like, I didn't say anything about any money. And you go to the head coach and he's like, we're not giving you any money. And
I think, Denny, the guys that would stay away from them might be the crooks, because they can't con them again. The guys, if you're an upfront guy you might reach out if you think he can play. But
Yeah.
then here's my list. I don't know if you want to get into that right away. This is what I honestly believe.
What kind of list are we talking about?
In my shopping list, if I'm the head coach at Michigan, my portal list.
Okay, stop right there. Take a look at your list, Scar, because I want to tell everyone that it is getting close to the holiday season, and you can see Scar's got his list, and he's checking it twice of portal quarterbacks, and so's old St. Nick. And if you want to know everything that's going on, you get ready for the holiday season, here is a great gift for the Michigan fan in your life, and it could be the one that's watching this show right now. It's the Maize and Blue Review, and you gift yourself Michigan knowledge. Go to michigan.rivals.com. It's the way to go. Maybe you like following the daily saga of Bryce Underwood. That's going on over on the Maize and Blue Review.
Denny, I've heard a lot of talk about Bryce Underwood, and everybody wants Bryce Underwood and this and that. But you know what? Ohio State had a kid, a 5-star kid. He didn't play hardly at all this year. I've just said it. I'm going to say it again. That's the model. Ohio State has the model. You bring in the 2-3-year starter who can throw and run, and you get your young guy acclimated with everything, and you get him ready to go for next year, the following year. And that's Ohio State has the blueprint, and that would be the perfect scenario. Bring in a proven 2-year starter somewhere that can throw and run, and you get Bryce Underwood or another great quarterback ready to go. That's Danny, my shopping list. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to be unfair to some of the current Michigan players. But I looked at what I think we have coming back in terms of depth.
All right.
Who I think is going to be, they would probably be starting next year and this, that, or whatever. And I got a lot. Some of the positions I got a lot of faith in, but I think we need to bring in one edge player. We need to go find a kid like Josiah Stewart. Is there a guy like that? Remember this, Denny, in defense of the guy at Purdue who was like 1-10 or whatever the heck, 1-9. He lost his best player to Texas A&M, his best defensive lineman. But we got to do that, man. We got to go find a great edge player from somebody. Because Texas A&M did it. They did it to Purdue. Ohio State did it. They took Alabama's top cornerback. Okay. Oregon took Michigan State's best defensive tackle. You think anybody cares? Think anybody has any sympathy for Michigan State or Purdue or these guys that lost their players? But we need to go get an edge. I got a lot of confidence in TJ Guy, and I think Brandt we can win with. But I'd like to bring one more stud in at the edge position. Defensive tackle, Denny, I think we need two. I do. I think we need to go find some serious, legitimate starting guys that everybody's going to want. Okay, I want that kid like Purdue got last year, the best player on Purdue's football team. We need two stud defensive tackles. That's just my opinion. I think we need one linebacker. I think there's a couple guys that can play in there. I think we need one corner. Does the kicker have our kicker have another year? I don't know if he does. But as far as offensively, obviously, we need a quarterback. So that's understanding. And I mentioned the names of the guys I like. I think we need a running back. We haven't the guys that we're counting on next year hardly played at all this year.
Scar, I have to stop you right there. Sharon Moore talked today. You had mentioned in the preseason that you thought that Micah Capana, who is a freshman this year, that he was going to be a player. Somebody told you that, or you saw it?
I watched it at the scrimmage, Denny.
Yeah, there you go. And today, Sharon Moore talked about some of the younger players that have stood out. They had a chance to work with some of the younger guys with it being a bye week and everything. And on offense, Sprague, he continues to get mentioned. He's going to be he's not going to be the next Michigan great offensive lineman, he's certainly going to be in contention.
Oh, Sprague. Okay, Sprague.
Sprague.
Yeah.
And Marshall, who everybody's familiar with, Jordan Marshall. He's been on kick returns and everything else. Goodwin, a wide receiver, and he mentioned Capana as a running back.
I get it. That's all good. But what did Ohio State do, Denny? They went and got the best player, a proven kid from Ole Miss.
Hey, I might as well have a big shiny robe on, Scar, because you're singing to the choir here.
I got you. I'm just telling you, man.
Just think back to last year. Michigan had all of these offensive linemen and guys that had waited their turn and guys that are on the team this year that you thought, hey, this guy is waited. This guy's going to be great. How many linemen did Harbaugh get last year? 3 offensive linemen out of the portal. He just kept going. And he didn't bring just one kicker. He brought 2 place kickers. So
I get it. It's you got to have a cold side to you, man. In today's coaching football, you want to be you got to spend time recruiting kids and going in their living room and talking to them, 17-year-old kids or parents, recruiting them, and then there's going to come a point where you may have to, and that kid's ready to go, ready to start. And you might have to say, you know what? There's a better kid over there at Purdue that we could snatch up, or some kid in Louisville that we could steal from them.
I don't know if you heard Coach Prime last week, Scar, did you?
No, but I there's a lot of what Prime says that makes sense.
Coach Prime said he's not going to be recruiting classes of 20, 25 guys. Yeah. He only wants about 8 or 9.
His theory, Denny, makes a lot of sense. Okay, it's like I'm not bringing in 25 dudes. And then half of them are going to get in the portal after the first year. I'm going to spend time developing them. And then they're going to get in the portal. Someone's going to snatch them up. He said, I'm going to only recruit guys, high school kids, that are going to contribute as freshmen. That way they're going to be locked in. And I totally understand his theory. It makes sense. But I think we need to bring in a stud running back. Go get a kid that's a real proven kid from a UNLV. I mean, the Boise State kid is unbelievable. You ain't getting him though, but
he's going pro. Yeah.
So let me talk offensive line. I think we recruited really well in the offensive line. I do. That's one position, but I still think we should go try to find the 2 of the best kids we can find just to give competition there. And we need a receiver, Denny. We need a freak receiver. You look at what Oregon had, what Ohio State has. I mean, we need a 6 foot. There's got to be a kid out there at one of these schools that is, whatever he's playing. We got to go find a big time receiver that can go make plays. And tight end is another position, Denny. I don't know that we need to do much at all. I think we've recruited good there. I think some of these, we'll see what happens with some of these young guys, but that might be a position. Especially what we do, how we ask our tight ends to block and do different things. There's not a lot of teams that ask tight ends to do what we do. So we might be better off just staying with what we got.
Yeah, and I think, Scar, just listening to you and just thinking about it all, you're making a lot of sense there. But just talking about the quarterbacks and the December 9th, we may know way before that it just gets out there. Let's just say it's Miller Moss. I know you talked about, another half dozen quarterbacks. Well, let's just say it's Moss. If Michigan really is going to be the destination and Michigan's going to make that decision, that should come out well before December 9th. Because if I'm a wideout at North Texas and I see Moss and, so I want to go somewhere where I know that, that I'm going to get the, some passes being thrown.
Absolutely.
I think that quarterback, it should be leaked out a little bit. It will be leaked out. I'm going to say, of course, it will be, I think, because of that. Just because of that. Probably.
Yeah, so, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm looking at, we're like 16th rank in recruiting high school kids, which isn't great. But and we got like 16, 17 kids, 8, 7, something like that. But you add, my number is about 12 portal kids, top kids, proven studs. Guys that are legitimate. We have to fight to get other people to get those guys. You understand? I'm not talking about taking some kid that couldn't play at Alabama. I don't want those dudes. I want proven studs. You got it? That everybody else wanted, that we had to outbid people on and beat the Buckeyes on. You got to give our coach a chance, man. Because I don't want, you heard James Franklin, what he said after they lost to the Buckeyes, right? Don't come over here. I don't need all your pom-poms and cheering, and then you're going to yell at the coach and, ante up, man. That's what he was telling the fans, right?
Yeah, that's right. About anting up, what do you make of the Bryce Underwood saga? It's not, we're just waiting on the final word that he's either, ditching LSU and coming to Michigan or just staying put. But the the talk of giving him, $7, 8, 9, $10 million. There have been a lot of people, that are like, hey, yeah, look, you're evolving, you're in this game, you understand, that it's going to be pricey, and let's get him. And then there are others that even if they were going to get him, are saying, hey, they don't like spending that kind of money on one player. What it could mean if you could spread that out, plus what it could mean for the rest of the team. What are you thinking about that?
Listen, man, Denny, there's two positions this year we had a major drop off, in my opinion. Okay, quarterback is obvious. You give us a good, we get better quarterback play. We might have won 2 more games.
Right.
Okay. I think there was Corum was the second most important player on our football team, in my opinion. Corum will get you a first down. He'll keep a drive alive. He makes guys miss. He runs guys over. I think we had a drop off at that position. And the rest of the team was minimal in my opinion. I don't know that we had a Roman Wilson either. I think we had a little drop off. That's my opinion there. But quarterback Bryce Underwood, Denny, the kid has a good relationship with Brian Kelly. He probably was recruiting him for 3, who knows, Notre Dame, and probably was recruiting him for a long time. He had a player who's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's got guys in the NFL. Some guys want to go down south and play, Danny. I know that as a high school coach. Some kids want to go play in the warm weather. Some of them want to get away from wherever they're at for some reasons. I do like that Michigan's talking, 3-4 year commitment. So you can't Dante Moros, take our money while we develop you and then leave after 1 year. So the money has to be, listen, man, this is a commitment. So I like that from what we've heard, that's a deal there. So Danny, that would be the greatest scenario to get this kid. And you know what? It's a different world now. If there's guys in the locker room that are pissed off that this guy's getting $10 million, well, deal with it, man. He's a quarterback. If you're going to go to the NFL now, that's part of what it is. That's the NFL too. Different guys are making different amounts of money. So as far as I'm concerned, whatever the hell we got to do to get this kid, and go do it, man.
Yeah, I thought today Sharon Moore was asked a lot about NIL, and so TJ Guy, somebody was asking him, hey, what if somebody's getting $5-6 million? What do you guys think? Upperclassmen and everything else. He said, we're all happy. We're rooting for other guys, to for their success. And we're happy if they're, able to get a tie-in or money and everything else. And that's what NFL guys say about rookies. Like, yeah, you might have been around, and sure, you want to get yours, and everybody wants to eat, and everybody wants the most money, but you're happy for them that they're able to do it. And that's what Moore said pretty much too. He said, look, it's a different game now. So yeah, he said he has great conversations about all of that with prospective players. So the part about, it affecting the team and everything else, it's the way it is now. I mean, the game is rapidly changed. It's front and center now.
Danny, and a head football coach now, you have to, you always had to deal with alumni to a certain extent. Bo used to talk about, going to speak to this thing and that thing. Didn't always sound like he was always excited about it, but the skill for a head football coach now, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, you have to have a skill to talk to the big time donors, the Stephen Rosses, and those dudes. Michigan's got them. Okay, we got Al Glicks, we got Stephen Ross, we got dudes like that. We got a lot of them. Portnoy. We don't always know all their names, but they're there. Okay, what do those guys want? Well, they some of them don't want anything, but some of them do want some things. They want access. They want to become whatever they want to do. And I hated that. Even, trust me, even high school coaches have to deal with some of this stuff on a much different level. I totally understand it, but he has to master that art of dealing with these boosters, getting them in his corner, whatever the hell they want, man. You want to come to suites, you want to watch practice, you want to sit in on practice, You want to sit in the coaches' meetings, whatever the hell they want. You know, you got to play the game because he's got to have a bankroll to outbid Ohio State and USC and some of these LSU to get guys, because that's where we're at now. And so that's just a skill that I think a head football coach, people aren't really talking about it and you look at what does the guy have to be able to do? There's a hell of a lot more than be able to teach double team,
Yeah, right. Last week, Sharon Moore had said that he had spent half of his time coaching and half of his time with NIL, but he clarified today, somebody had followed up on that, or when he was talking about NIL, he was talking about half the time, there's people contacting Michigan. It's just basically, with his general manager, McGee, just what they're looking at and just how this team is going to form after the season. And a lot of that's going to have to do with the players they're going to keep, the players that they think are going to go to the portal, the movers, the shakers, all the guys they're bringing in, all that stuff. So,
yeah. Sean McGee's role, you talk about your 10 position coaches and your strength coach. His role is every bit as important as any position coach right now, or your strength coach. Mm-hmm. Whereas, it wasn't, I don't know how Danny, I'm going to throw this out. I'm just going to keep it real. We'll see what Will Johnson does this week. But if somebody asked me as a coach, I kind of touched on it last week. All right, here's your options, Scar. You can have your All-American play 6 games or have him not play at all like Penny Sewell did at Oregon a couple years back. Remember Penny Sewell sat out his 3rd year?
Because that was the pandemic year, yeah.
Still, he just said to hell with it. It's his 3rd year. I'm not playing. Go give your scholarship to somebody else. There's a big part of me that he's like, you know what? If you're not going to play, you're only going to play 6 games. Let's go and just pack it in, and I'll give that scholarship to somebody else.
You're saying keeping it real. If Will Johnson doesn't have to play against Northwestern, he doesn't have to say that he was banged up. He doesn't have to say anything. If he really is just piecing out, his legend to me is secure. And also, after the first game, the first week that I saw him, he came in and he busted up his middle finger against USC, went down for the tackle, smashed his shoulder, and then I don't know what it is now. It's an ankle or a knee. It's not like he's just sitting back there and thinking about, I'm out. I'm just getting ready for the draft. It's like he could be.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question, Denny. I don't know.
What is the question? Are we mad at Will Johnson?
I don't know. Well, look, I don't know. We heard ankle about 3 weeks ago, so we'll see.
Well, Moore said that when they were talking, he was asked 3-4 weeks ago, if he was going to be available the next week. He was like, we'll see. But then he said it's not something that's going to keep him out for the whole year. Well, there's just 2 games left. So
okay,
if it wasn't going to keep him out for the whole year, you can think about, should he come back to get Michigan Bowl eligible and play in the Motor City Bowl, or is it more important to, think about your draft prospects?
Okay, I get it. Anyway, I just want to throw it out there.
Say it again. So, are you saying that you wish that he wouldn't even have participated at all?
Well, I don't know what. I'm not the head coach. I don't know what his injury status is. Sharon Moore does, and I just know that if I'm in that position again as a head coach, and I got a guy who's a 1st-round draft pick, just something to consider and think about as the next guy in that situation.
Well, they've got 3 more guys that are in that situation, and none of them are hurt, and all of them are going to play. So,
okay, well, we'll see this week.
I'm not holding it against, you have to make business decisions. Yeah, you love your teammates and everything else, but I think all the teammates understand too. It's not like they're playing to, go to the Rose Bowl. They're playing to playing the Pop-Tart Bowl. Guys get that. I think if he sits out, it's fine.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion.
Right. That is my opinion.
You're okay with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that wouldn't be. It was just a couple of years ago when Devin Bush and the running back.
Yeah, we're not even in the bowl game, Danny. We're already mid-season shutting it down. So anyway, I don't want to beat that up. It's not the bowl game. It's,
I got you.
Last home game, man. Buckeyes on deck.
Right.
So just want to throw it out there.
I hear you.
listen.
Yeah, we don't know how hurt he is. So that's the
anyway.
thing.
Just good things again for Sharon Moore to keep Babaloa, keep Gatch, keep our key guys locked in. They have faith, man. People have faith, and who cares what the rest of the world thinks about Sharon Moore? It's the recruits that have faith. That's the bottom line. They got to have faith that he's going to get this thing going, and it looks like the kids are sticking with their commitments.
Well, I got to tell you today, because there was a lot of talk that I don't say a lot of talk. It was online. Like, maybe this team is, you have a team that's a disappointment almost every time you hear things about a bad locker room, a fractured locker room, guys pointing fingers, and all of the players and Sharon Moore, they weren't actually asked that specifically, but Moore talked about being impressed how these guys continue to fight, continue to play for one another. He loved the fire. He loved the energy during the bye week. I mean, that's coach speak, and I don't know if the team really was pointing fingers, if he would know about it or not, but instead of the bye week, he called it buy-in week, and I don't know. There wasn't any signs, at least from the people that talked. But again, I mean, if there really is stuff going on behind the scenes where people are upset, I mean, how much are you going to get on a Monday news conference, heading into the home finale? Probably not very much. So.
Yeah, it's not all that difficult, Danny, to get guys to play hard in front of 100,000 people on television. To start, and it's just not that hard to do. So that kind of narrative, I don't know. I think it's not hard to get guys motivated to play in front of 100,000 people. That's all I'm telling you from that standpoint. But I'm going to say something, Denny, that's I'm just going to keep it real from a coaching standpoint.
Keep it real.
I've heard some, people in the media, rip on some of our assistant coaches, some of our coordinators. Campbell got to go. Wink lost. Don't know what he's doing. Got to go. And I'm going to just keep it real. Okay. I think the head coach should stand up and say, listen, I'm the leader of this football team and we're 5-5. I'm the leader of this football team and we're 5-5. I'm responsible. I hired those guys. Everything they do is approved by me. Everything we do on offense, I was the offensive coordinator last year. I'm in charge, and he's running what I want run. He's calling the plays I agree with. The defensive guy is doing what we've done in the past, and I'm just telling you what I would want to hear. We're a 5-5 football team, and I'm the guy in charge, and the buck stops with me. That's what I heard from Schembechler, okay, when we were 6-6. I'm just telling you what I believe.
Yeah, I hear that, and I think that when you go, let's just say Kirk Campbell, because I think he's the one that's talked about the most that should be replaced. What about, to me, a lot of it, yeah, you have to have your own conviction and what kind of coach he is. And if Sharon Moore really thinks that Kirk Campbell's this great coach and he just got dealt some bad cards and the quarterback decisions and everything that went into it, he was saying another thing, and you're going to say, hey, I'm keeping him because the buck stops with me. Well, then, both of those guys could be out of a job next year. But I think it goes a little bit further. If I'm a quarterback, and I don't know if I'm a senior quarterback thinking about going to Michigan, or if I'm a transfer portal, and the question comes back, like, we're not very impressed with Kirk Campbell. Is there going to be anything? Are you just going to be like, hey, I'm the head guy? The point here is that sometimes it's public perception.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you say, Danny. Sometimes that's what you tell the recruit.
What?
Okay? That's what I told my players. No, man, he's run what I want run. And that's what you tell the recruit, unless you plan on firing the guy. Okay?
Well, right. I think that there's a real chance when you have a season that has gone like this, that's been massively disappointing, that you're not going to fire the head coach. Sharon Moore is safe, even if you think that he's terrible and had a terrible year. I would tend to agree with that. But what you do, you make changes on your staff. Are you saying that you wouldn't make, if you were the head guy?
Well, listen, what I'm saying to you is, Danny, silence doesn't promote the sense of fight that you want to instill in your coaches for you, your players for you. You fight like hell to support your coaches and your players to the media.
Yeah,
that's the guy I saw for 5 years. You know, he might shred you in our meetings. Bo Wood, he shred everybody, but publicly he ain't going to let other people attack his guys. You know, and that's what I would like to hear. That's all. That's what I'm saying, man. I'm the guy in charge. We know he ain't going nowhere.
Right.
He ain't getting canned, but fight for your guys. I mean, how many times I don't keep bringing up Jim Harbaugh, but I mean, I've heard even people talk about our offensive line coach, right?
Yes.
Right. Now he can't coach. What did Jim Harbaugh say about that kid?
Grant.
He said he's a rising star. He's going to be a head coach one day, right? And now all of a sudden he sucks. If you listen to some of these people in the media, you know, I'm just telling you what I would do. I'd be swinging out there, defending my guys, saying I'm the guy. It all starts with me. It stops with me. And you want to yell at them, you yell at me.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually heard Sharon Moore. When he's been asked if he's going to take over the play calling, he's been pretty emphatic. No, Kirk Campbell's the guy. When he's been asked about during the year Wink, when he had some of his low moments, like after the Texas game, he was defending him. So I don't know.
Maybe I haven't heard it enough, Danny. Maybe I'm guilty.
The questions matter, and the questions haven't been directed like the only ones that have been early on. It was for Wink about him blitzing too much, and he shot that down and said, no, actually that's not the case. And then he's been asked a few times about replacing being the play caller, replacing Campbell that way, and he said no, he wasn't going to do that. Look, you got to take the coaches with a grain of salt when they said that. Harbaugh said a million things, but Harbaugh was a lot like a lot of other coaches when you're winning and he's saying stuff. But Harbaugh was. What do you want to say? Like, he also said that, Scout's honor, he never tells a lie. And we all know that he was lying about bringing in talking.
It has to do with, Denny, the promotion.
Not always. I mean, he was over there talking about Scout's honor. I never tell a lie my whole life. And yet we know that during the dead period, he was lying through his teeth.
I'm talking about the promotion of your players and your coaches.
Okay.
Because you want them to fight for you. And they want to hear you in tough times fight for them.
Yeah, well, Jim Harbaugh a couple of years ago said that Don Brown was the greatest assistant coach that he ever had.
Okay.
I didn't want to hear that from Jim.
I get it. You know what?
His job.
That's
everyone's lucky, but Jim Harbaugh was lucky too that he didn't get fired because he hung on to Don Brown for too long.
No, he absolutely. He went too long with him, but that's an example of when everybody's pointing fingers and everybody's shredding the assistants.
Yeah.
The head coach stood firm and say, "I don't give a damn. He's our guy. He's my guy."
I hear you. I think you might have to be in it for a couple of years before you can do that. I think like for Moore, a lot of people want to get him out after 1 year. So I don't know about him standing up. Everybody's after everybody on the coaching staff. It's not like they're just after Kirk Campbell. They're after Moore just as much.
Still, I think it shows strength, man. Tell them all to get screwed.
I hear you.
I'm in charge, and I know what I'm doing, and I got faith in these guys. Hell, your coaches, Danny, you got to have your coaches fighting like hell for you, man.
That's true.
You want them fighting like hell for you. It ain't. So anyway, I just had to throw that out there, man.
I hear you. I like it.
Looking at the Big Ten, we saw Ohio State and Northwestern. That was Ohio State's good, and I guess we kind of talked about Northwestern, but I see absolutely zero problem getting ready for the Ohio State game, Danny. Zero problem. Our football team and get our players giving everything they have, because I'm gonna throw it out there real quick. I know it ain't Ohio State we got, but it's Ohio State, man. The players on our football team, Denny, since they were 8, 10, 11-year-old kids, they were watching college football and they wanted to play in a game like that. And they busted their butt to get recruited. They lifted, they ran, they did all the hard work to get recruited to play in that football game. So they're going to play with everything they got in that football game because of that, number one. They're going to fight like hell for their teammates. Number two, and those are the two big reasons that guys are going to play their butt off in that football game. They're going to fight like hell for their teammates, and because it's that game.
Do you think that Michigan beats Northwestern?
Oh yeah, I think we do. I think it's going to be a struggle because I think they're good on defense. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think the guy's a real good defensive coach. Our quarterback's going to have to complete some passes, but they ain't no pushover, man. They're not going to beat themselves. They had a punt block. These guys doing some of this crazy punt protection stuff. I never understand why some of these guys are doing what they do. But they're going to be a test, man.
Michigan, a 12.5-point favorite. I think they're going to beat Northwestern too. And I just know, having experienced the Ohio State game for as many years that I have, is that however you feel about Sharon Moore, and I'm just going to say he beats Northwestern, because if he doesn't beat Northwestern, people are going to feel like way much lower than where my hand is. But I'm just going to say that he beats Northwestern. If Michigan plays well against Ohio State and loses, people will still be all right with Sharon Moore. But you get whooped by Ohio State, it doesn't matter if you like. There's not going to be a lot of. It goes into the off season. You're playing, you could be in the Fleabag Bowl and you can enjoy it and everything else, but it's not going to be a very comfortable off season. But for somehow, if they go out there and they were to pull the upset, then it's a way different story. I might be just telling everybody knows that. Everybody knows what I'm saying.
Hey, we're capable, man. We have players. Get the good quarterback play like we had against Oregon. No turnovers, no penalties. We're capable of winning these next two games. We are.
Well, I think this is the reason to be optimistic about Michigan football is that what we have seen in recruiting is that they have evolved to where they're ready to go after any player in the country. There's nothing prohibiting them from getting all of the best talent. And in years past, guys that wanted some upfront money, that was going to be a stumbling block for Michigan. That's gone. So I feel like that's a positive. And with the transfer portal, if Indiana can go out there and grab a dozen kids from a team and, if you can go out there and, Michigan can compete they should be in the college football playoff next year with all the resources they have and the stadium that they play in. Michigan with a good off season that's going to start now. It started now, but we'll see a lot of it in December with the players. This team should be in the college football playoff. So yeah, you could be down on Moore and down on this and that, but it starts anew quickly here.
Yeah. Listen, the guy at Purdue, he's struggling, man. Mike Loxley, I wonder how long they're going to hang on to him. He's been 500 for 5-6 years now, but the guy at Purdue, they took his best player. Texas A&M outbid and took his best player. The guy almost has an argument as to how can Purdue compete with Michigan and Ohio State and these other guys if they can't pay, unless there's other reasons that kid left Purdue. But he's a stud player for Texas A&M that they just outbid him. But yeah, Denny, we got to compete. And like you said, Sean McGee is a crucial. You better that guy on your staff. He better be better than the guy at Ohio State. He better be better than that guy at Oregon. He better know everything that's going on and know how to get these guys. What's it going to take? So those people, they got to be good. Your high school recruiting guy is important, but this guy's got to be good too, man.
Handle this question, Scar. Andre says if Michigan beat Ohio State, that would mean Kirk Campbell keeps his job, with a laughing face, and he's saying, just saying. Because people are, as you know, fans are all down on Kirk Campbell. Couldn't be any lower. So
listen, man, I just know my thought process about the offensive coordinator. You remember how Jim talked about a collaboration?
Yeah.
Okay. Remember I asked you a couple of weeks ago to ask Sharon Moore that question? Does he have any input on play calling or play game planning? Does Sharon Moore have any input on play calling or game planning?
Yes.
Well, then why the hell are we talking about this Kirk Campbell guy for then? If he is involved with play calling, it's the same collaboration we've had for the last couple of years that his when I played Bo and Coach Hanlon, they collaborated. Hanlon was the key guy, but they collaborated. And that's the same way it was with my two guys. They collaborated on play calling. There were two guys that were on the headset. So if Sharon Moore is on the headset and he's sitting there in the meeting, how are we going to attack Northwestern? And he's deciding the game plan along with Kirk Campbell. I mean, the buck stops with the big fella, man. And he understands that.
Yeah, well, I would like to know, and here's what I think. I think that they went through, because if Harbaugh had stayed around, I kind of feel like he would have gone through spring, and he might have brought two other quarterbacks in, just to compete, just because you didn't know about Tuttle and him coming back from the injury, and plus you can never have enough players at the position. That's what I feel, but I say that, and if you go out there and you look at the landscape of the quarterbacks that when Michigan was in the spring, and the guys were like, yeah, and you thought that they were just about maybe as good as Jack Tuttle, but the guys were asking for $1 million or something, and you're thinking, well, if we give like some player after spring, we feel pretty confident in our guys, but if we give this guy $1 million, then we got to give Tuttle $1 million, then we got to give Orgy $1 million, and it's like next thing you know, we're spending $5 million. So I think that was why they didn't do it, but I also have to wonder how they're going about evaluating the quarterbacks. If they really looked at Alex Orgy, and Sharon Moore said a number of times in the fall and in spring practice, he was making plays all over the place. Well, it just didn't translate. So I know they just got hoodwinked by Orgy. They put the faith in the Tuttle that, he's not injury prone, that he'll be all right. And they love Davis Warren throwing it all.
Who's they? Hang on. Who's they? Is they Kirk Campbell or Sharon Moore?
Well, those are the top two.
Okay, but the buck stops with somebody.
That's your head coach, your quarterback's coach, and your offensive coordinator.
Danny, the head coach makes the final decision on all that stuff.
Oh, I know that.
He's like, hey, this is the way we're going. We're going Tuttle, Orgy, and Warren. That's the way we're going. So I don't want to hear about Kirk Campbell.
You don't want to hear about him.
I know the head coach makes those decisions. You're like, man, we can win with these guys. Okay, and people want to second guess it, and you want to blame this coordinator now. I don't think so. And then play calling, it's the same thing. It's a collaboration. That's why I think Sharon Moore should stand up and say, look, man, we have a collaboration, but the buck stops with me. Back off of that deal. He's our guy. That's the way we're moving forward. That's just, I said it. I keep beating it up.
Well, I'll just put a last point in, and it was about the quarterbacks. If I'm Moore, and I loved everything about Campbell, and he was in my ear all the time, like, boy, I think we should spend some of this money and go out and get another guy just in case. And Sharon was like, nope, these are the three guys, coach them. Well, then maybe he does want to stand up for him. But in that process, when they were looking at it, I mean, that is the biggest decision that those guys made. Out of everything that was going on.
Yeah, we don't know, Denny. We don't know how that process played out. And look, we were in the playoffs, and there's a big we all get it. We started, we were behind. There's a lot of stuff going on, man.
And I also think sometimes
there's no excuses now. That's why we're going to just keep faith, and we go get the Washington State kid. We go get a proven stud. It'll be a different team. It'll be a totally different play calling deal.
And I would say that, Kirk Campbell might be, a great offensive coordinator, just didn't work out. You mentioned Mike Locksley. Let's say Mike Locksley gets fired at Maryland, and he's sitting out there, and you think, he's a big improvement over Kirk Campbell. You might just think that. And, he's been around the block a lot longer. And you'd say, well, that's going to be an upgrade. Well, why should I say, Moore should have stood by his guy?
I don't know, Danny. I'm not in the coaching. I'm not on his coaching staff. Okay. But I know if I'm going to sit there and talk to my 10 coaches every day about certain types of loyalties and this, that, or whatever, if the guy can't coach, then he'll get rid of him at the end of the year. There's things we just don't know. We just don't know. Okay. But if it's, so we'll find that out. If Mike Locksley's a better choice, then the head coach will make that decision. But, I don't know. I'm not in that meeting room with him. I know that you loyalty is something. Look, Jim went through how many offensive guys? He had Pep Hamilton. He had Weiss. He had all kinds of dudes. You know,
Fish, right?
Jed Fish. He had a lot of guys. You know, he went through them too.
Gaddis.
You know, and it's part of the deal. And so hey, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
And I just like to see the leader defend his guys if he has the opportunity.
No, I get that point. And for me, you have a really disappointing season and you don't fire the head coach, and almost always follows that some of the coaches are going to, you're just going to move the pieces around, and people say, hey, you're just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. And then different voices, almost every team does it when they have a disappointing season like that. So
no, I know
that's what you do. So
I get it. You got to do it for whatever reasons. We're seeing it now, man.
Maybe if it's just appearances, and sometimes it's just a different voice. Yeah.
I mean, you know, getting back to USC, you know, he put this kid on the bench. He put the big fella on the bench for a kid that's mobile, that can move. You know, what's his name? Miller Moss. He put Miller Moss on the bench for a young transfer that was at UNLV. I think probably the main reason he did it, Denny, is he can move. He's mobile. They just beat Nebraska. He didn't have the greatest game, but he can run. He can run a little bit, and he made some plays with his feet.
Yeah, well, Lincoln Riley's track record with quarterbacks is pretty amazing. So,
and every one of them could run. I think every one of those guys could run, right? Jalen Hurd, Baker Mayfield, the little guy at Arizona. What's his name?
Murray.
Everybody, all those guys could run. Every one of them could run.
Oh, that's
They're not stiffs. They ain't just throwing the ball. He ran every single one of them. And so there's, you know, that's the kind of guy we need to get.
What about? I know I'm just playing devil's advocate a million times, but you know, for a lot of this, you know, Jared Goff's not very mobile, and he's got the best offense going almost in NFL history. What they have right now, best.
I get it, Denny. There's systems, and if the guy is, I talked about this last week.
By talent,
you know, I said John Gruden talked about Jared Goff. You know, he said Jared Goff makes his money before the ball is snapped. That he gets you in the right play. Now, can other guys do it? I don't know. Are they so laser beam accurate? Goff is accurate as hell. He's got a great run game. You know, he's been accurate. He's been accurate for the most part. You know, he had a bad week last week, but
one last one on that. You know, Tom Brady was not the greatest athlete.
I understand, Denny. I get it, man. And I think football is changing more. I think these coaches want mobility a little more than they did 10, 20 years ago. I just do.
I agree with that.
I don't know how highly recruited Tom Brady or Jared Goff would be if they came out of college now. Honestly, I don't know if they would be as highly recruited as a Bryce Underwood. I don't, you know what I mean? I think guys want that kid that can move a little bit.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah. Every now and then I'm right about something.
You make a sense. You know, you make a lot of sense on everything. It's just interesting to hear you talk through it, you know, like, so what your observations are and what you're seeing. I thought today Sharon Moore was asked, there's people asking about, does anybody think Sharon Moore has done a good job? No, nobody thinks he's done a good job. Moore was asked today how he hangs in there. He says he talks to Harbaugh sometimes 3 times a week. He talks to John Harbaugh. He talks to Stoops. I think Bob Stoops. He's an Oklahoma guy. And he talks to Mike Tomlin. Those are the guys that he talks with. That, you know,
those are good people. And listen, man, let's give this guy, let's give him a real good quarterback, and maybe we'll get better. But I think let's just give him a good quarterback, and I think everything it's going to be a different team, man. Because I think he's got good assistant coaches. You know, I think Kirk Campbell will be a much better coach when he has a guy that can avoid a sack on 3rd down and convert a first down. It's amazing how much better he will be when he has a kid that can turn on. I watched Washington State the other day, or Arizona State. You know, anyway, he's going to be a much better coach when he has a kid that can do those things.
Yeah, you know, if they had even a mid quarterback or a little bit better than that, they probably would have lost to Texas and maybe Oregon, but I think all those other games were winnable.
Yeah. So
with just a halfway decent quarterback.
So we'll have the team ready to go, and Northwestern will be last home game, and people will be fired up, man. I want those guys to play well. I want our seniors to go out winners. It's really important.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's really important to be bowl eligible. Like people are like, upset because people want to see a Michigan bowl game or clamoring for it. It's like you get the practices. Plus, you never know what happens in a bowl game. And so for just those reasons, I would like to see it. Plus, it's losing to Northwestern and then getting, smacked by Ohio State, that doesn't – there's something to having a springboard to the following season, and there's no springboard if you lose the last two games. It's just – it chops right in half.
No, absolutely nothing. We need to win this game. We need to win this game.
You said Michigan is going to win the game. Do you think they're going to win by more than 12 or 13 points?
I don't like talking gambling on here, but I think it's going to be a low. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, Denny. I think it's going to be a low scoring game.
Both of my questions were about gambling, so I was going to ask you about Michigan. And
I don't like Denny. I can't really get into Michigan because I still have information about the team at times, and
okay.
I don't like talking about anything to do with.
You think they'll keep it close against Ohio State?
Yeah, I do. I have faith that this game is going to be low scoring, but Michigan's going to win, and we get good quarterback play, and we get the kind of Oregon play that we had. Ohio State's they screwed around at home at times.
They're only a 12.5-point favorite. Michigan's a 12.5-point favorite against Northwestern. Ohio State's a 12.5-point favorite against Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like a low-scoring game this week in Ann Arbor. And Indiana, 12.5. Yeah, I don't know, Denny. I might take Indiana. I might take the Hoosiers. Any other questions on there? Anybody disagree? I love when people disagree with me. I'm all good on that, man. I want people to disagree with Scar, so I just prove, just show me why you think I'm wrong about things. I love it.
Well, you want some – I don't know if they're specifically going after you and anything that you said. Here's OT says Michigan can't run the ball and they can't pass protect, and you guys are complaining about the quarterback.
But all those things come with quarterback play. If a defense doesn't fear your ability to throw the football, they're going to load up on your run. Okay, it's that simple. For an offense to be effective, you have to put the defense in conflict. You have to be able to throw it and run it. And if you can't throw it, they're going to overload and not play you honest defending the run. So that's one of the big reasons we have trouble running the football. People don't respect our ability to throw.
Two more questions. Here's TC. He says he's bothered by so many Michigan people using the time spent winning last year and the exit by the quarterback and head coach as an excuse for being behind. The timeline was Michigan's fault, no one else.
Yeah, I think, Danny, I think we talked about it. You talked about the quarterback room. Somebody made a decision that we can win with those guys. And that's the question. Could we have gone out and got another guy? That's the $1 million question. And yeah, I believe we could have.
Sure. Did they really think J.J. McCarthy was staying? Did they really think Jim Harbaugh was staying? And how much was Jim thinking about next year's Michigan team while he also was thinking about trying to get an NFL job? It's not everything, Treplin. You have to make the best of wherever you're at. Even if you're winning a national championship, you got to be thinking about next year's team. But if you don't want to call it an excuse, it is. It did put him behind the 8 ball by waiting till January.
It put him behind with the portal, Danny. Period. The portal. And then they made decisions on guys that they thought were probably going to play better in certain positions. When maybe we could have gone and got a receiver. But listen, man, I firmly believe that our coaches in Ward Manual and our people learned a lesson this year, and we just can't let it happen again. They can't let it. You can't get outgunned and let Ohio State and Oregon just totally, get better players than you.
Scar says, John says nobody's trolling you, Scar. They're just speaking the truth. And then our last one is from RW says Michigan will not lose to Northwestern, and against OSU, the pride and determination can take a
You're
team.
right. The goal of these guys, like I said, wanting to play in that game, and then the love for each other. I remember playing in that game when we were 6-5. Same situation. We went to Columbus. We were 6-4 at that time. We only played 11 games, but it was the same kind of deal, man. But we battled them. Everybody fought their butt off, and tears at the end of the game, tears before the game, and that's what we're going to get. So,
well, there might be some tears if it goes the other way from these fans, but I get that. Scar, great job. It was fun to talk with you, and we can't wait to do it next week.
Hopefully some good film next week. Go Blue.
There he is, Jim Scarcelli. Go ahead.